Hi, I'm Chris Nowinski. I am very honored to be here with Jason Redman. He's got one of the most amazing resumes in the world, but it's built around being a retired Navy SEAL who was injured in combat and is now basically taking over the world as an author and a speaker and sharing a very important and positive message. So Jay, I just saw your TED Talk and it was amazing and it blew me away. And you talked about React and you talked about getting off the X. And your story, I only got a taste of it. I'm so excited to hear about it, the whole story in your book. So tell me about getting off the X and tell me what I didn't hear that's in the book.
Yeah, what an honor, first off, obviously, to be able to give a TED Talk and Chris, you and I to connect. But I tell you what, I've just been fortunate enough, it's just been blessed to be able to go through this whole process, obviously spend time in the SEAL teams, be severely injured, and then to get out and start working with individuals that have been through trauma, businesses that are suffering through failure, crisis, massive adversity, and I myself went through all these things also. So along the last 12 years, I just started writing about a process. How did I do that? How did I launch off the X? And the X being that central point of attack or the central point of the incident. And that's really what this new book is all about. It is a step-by-step process on how we deal with massive adversity, what I call life ambushes. I sustain an enemy ambush, bullets and bombs in combat, but people get hit by life's bullets and bombs, and it's just devastating. We focus on those the end moments,
right?
And what the book does, it walks you through that. It's broken into 4 parts. The first part is, if you're in a life ambush, how do we get out of it? And that gets into the React methodology. Part 2 is all about how you lead yourself, how we now get proactive and accept the fact that there's future life ambushes out there.
Yeah.
We're never going to avoid them. The average person will go through at least 5. At least 5.
Oh boy, looking forward to that.
Yeah, they're coming, man. They're coming.
You got to be ready.
Well, I gave you a roadmap. You can use it, and it works in all aspects of your life. The third part of the book is we need to lead others, because others around us are going to go through life ambushes. So our ability to help them, when we are on the X, sometimes it's really hard to get off it all by ourselves. And this is where teammates, friends, family, this is where it makes a difference. And the last and final part is about leading always. Being proactive, being prepared, knowing that I've got to keep myself at a certain mental readiness to be ready for these future life ambushes that are coming. So that's where it gets much deeper than just the 15-minute TED Talk, and I'm excited. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Oh, and that's coming out in December 2019.
December 10th.
Oh,
yep, 2019.
Very exciting. So you and I are bonded by one aspect of what you went through and something that I went through as a WWE wrestler is the life ambush of a brain injury.
That's right.
And something you said that was fascinating in your talk was sort of recognizing that the person you were back then is not who you are today. And maybe it's not about getting back to who that person was, but recognizing where you are today and moving forward and accepting that new person.
That's right.
So tell me more about that.
So yeah, so many of us, when we sustain a life ambush, oftentimes there is a mental, emotional, or physical injury that comes with it, or loss. Any of those things, we have a natural tendency to look back and we want to create the perfect identical scenario of what we've lost. But the reality is it'll never happen. Similar with a brain injury, we've suffered some sort of injury that now we have to figure out how we process things, how we do things for the future. A lot of people waste a lot of time. They get stuck on the X and they're like, I want to be back to who I was, but it'll never happen because unfortunately we've suffered some kind of damage. So what we have to do is figure out how to become the new 100% version of ourselves. And once we can come to grips with that, it enables us to move forward. But the very first thing, we have to come to grips with it. That's the first part in the React methodology. You have to recognize your reality. And so many people, when we have a mental, physical, emotional crisis, any kind of major loss, there's a period of time we're in denial. And we have a tendency to keep pushing it down the road. Oh, I'll deal with that later.
Right.
Oh, I don't want to acknowledge that this is really a problem. But the reality is, in order to get off the X, in order to deal with it, you need to acknowledge it as soon as possible. And brain injuries are no different.
Yeah, and you've lived this reality. So you had that recognize your reality moment you talked about in your TED Talk when you were at Walter Reed and you heard people talking about you. So how did that military training that you've built into the book help you set the new path for yourself?
You know, it's interesting. So what I did when I wrote the book, I looked at what are the life ambushes I've been through, and I looked at other ones. There's amazing contributors to the book, everybody from high-level military leaders like Bill McCraven, Stan McChrystal, wounded warriors, business friends that talked about ambushes they've been in. And when I was doing all this research, I said, wow, I've been through 3 major life ambushes. Obviously, the battlefield injury and the subsequent surgeries were one. The first one was a leadership failure. And when I went back and looked at that, I used that process. I didn't know it at the time, although it took me a lot longer. I sat on the X a lot longer. Fast forward to when I got out of the military and the civilian world, I got in the business world, I got into a lawsuit that sometimes happens in business. And I got stuck on the X as I dealt with that. I was in totally new territory, dealing with lawyers and legal jargon and all this within our business. And it was only when I started to apply that process and I began to look forward that I moved off that X. And it works. I tell people it doesn't matter whether it's physical, whether it's personal, whether it's professional. Apply this process, whether it's a big ambush or a small ambush, it will enable you to move forward just like it has for me.
And one of the fascinating things you said was everyone in this room is either coming out of a life ambush or is living in one, or one is going to be coming in your future.
What a downer, right?
Thanks,
Guess
Jay.
what?
Yeah.
Bad
By the way, if
things
you're
are
happy
coming.
right now, you're not going to be really soon. But part of the problem with being happy and being in a good place is you get complacent and you get and you're not, and you start to think maybe it's always going to be that way. So how do you help people appreciate that? Enjoy the moment, but be ready for that next life ambush so that if it happens, you can end up, as you mentioned, to make the best bad decision you can make if you don't have any good options.
So one of the questions I like to ask people is, will you be ready? That's a pivotal question. It's one of the things we ask in the book, and the idea is this: you're right. We all have a natural tendency that when we get comfortable, we like to sink down. We enjoy comfort. Don't get me wrong, man. I mean, I've slept in some pretty rough places, but I like a beautiful 5-star bed at the Boston Harbor Hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, it is nice. But at the same time, it also, like you said, it can make us complacent and it gets us into, I don't want to call it a danger zone, but it is a zone we are not ready. If you think about martial arts, we walk in this constant state of readiness. And it doesn't mean you're ready to go out and attack. It just means I'm ready to move or react to things that are coming. And in life, this is such a critical thing. And how do we do that? Well, you need to push yourselves outside your comfort zone on a regular basis. And a lot of times people confuse their zone of discomfort with pain. And the reality is it doesn't need to be painful. You just need to push out of that comfort zone. A lot of times I tell people they can do it through physical leadership. So working out is a great place to get out of your zone of comfort. Yep. We can do it through mental leadership by reading, educating ourselves with new concepts, new beliefs. Emotional leadership, how we manage our emotions. Social leadership, getting out into new rings of circles and influence. And then spiritual leadership, how do we get outside of ourselves? So those 5 areas are called the Pentagon of Peak Performance. And those are the areas you want to focus on to move in and out of your comfort zone. It's an infinite loop is what we want to do. When we're comfortable, we want to look to get out of our comfort zone, and at some point, we're going to move back into the comfort zone. What we're doing at that time, whether it's working out, you're going to reach a level of your body adapts to it. The human body and the brain are great at doing that.
Yep.
And once you reach that zone of discomfort, then you continue doing that loop, and that's where you'll be ready for those life ambushes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sitting down with me so I could learn more about Overcome. I can't wait to read it when it's out, unless I can steal that copy.
You cannot.
We'll see.
That's the only copy I have.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Jay Redman.
Yeah, thank
check
you.
him out. What's the best website?
JasonRedman.com.
See you there.